reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. Hello everyone and welcome to MMO Reporter's DDO Shadowfell Conspiracy preview. This preview focuses on the three new iconic classes, the Shadar-kai, the Morning Lord, and the Purple Dragon Knight. As well, we're going to be taking a look at the UI enhancements and the new enhancement system. So stick around, take a look, but please remember this is still in beta and they are still working on a lot of aspects of the game. Enjoy the preview.
We're introducing Shadar-kai and the Purple Dragon Knight and the Morning Lord. One of the key things about these guys is that they start at level 15, right in the Forgotten Realms. This is the first time you can start in the Forgotten Realms at all. So if we quickly run through making a Shadar-kai here, there will be a custom path that we pre-built for you if you just really want to get in the game that's not quite ready for this demonstration. So one of their special things that they have is they have custom cosmetic appearance. So for instance, they have these punk hairstyles that nobody else gets. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have special scars on their face. So for instance, you're currently blind, but you don't want to be blind. You have different scars on your face because you're an emo Shadar-kai from the darkness. You can change the tattoos that are on your face. You can also change your piercings. Certainly nobody else in the entire game gets to choose their piercings.
They're quite as many.
Not quite the same. There might be one or two for some other people.
Plus all at the same time.
Yeah, you can have them all. You can change the color of your hair, typical normal things. And we'll just create this Shadar-kai and enter the game. So when you talk to Elminster, he will greet you, he knows your backstory, and he'll tell you more about it. There's quite a lot of dialogue if you want to go through it all. He can also train you. He will quickly make you a level 15 rogue if that's what you want to do. If that's not what you want to do, you can go through slowly, one level at a time, and choose everything that you want along the way.
So we then took a jump over to a different character and went in-game. The Shadar-kai do start in Wayloon, and we took a look at a few of the different special abilities that this particular iconic class does have. Each of the iconic classes has synergy with a particular DDO class, and the Shadar-kai is specifically tied to the rogue, so they will do very well if they choose rogue as their class to focus on.
So we're going to summon some monsters, show you some of the Shadar-kai custom abilities.
Yeah, Shadar-kai are sort of rogue-centric, but just as with any of the iconics, you start with one level of your preferred class, but then you're free to choose otherwise. This one is full rogue, so they can do any of the things that rogues do, plus they have their own unique Shadar-kai abilities. One of those is the spike chain attack, which we can show you now. Basically attacks a large group of enemies, in this case some hapless test kobolds. What it allows you to do is, rather than focus fire like a typical rogue where you're sneak attacking one enemy, this can let you draw a large group of enemies and do a lot of damage to them, over time. Sometimes you might find that you're attracting a lot of attention, unlike you typically want as a rogue. So you'll use like one of the other cool Shadar-kai abilities called Shadow Phase or Shadow Jaunt, which actually turns you invisible into going into a puff of smoke, and allows you to become ethereal to monsters, which is really has a lot of interesting gameplay dynamics to it, because you can be pinned in by monsters that are standing around you. So this lets you sort of phase out, partially go to the Shadowfell and then come back and redo your damage.
We've just been asked, is it a literal chain attack? It's an effect on screen, but are you holding a chain?
It is not a chained weapon in your inventory.
Right.
It is basically an ability.
Yeah.
Cool.
Your secondary weapon that the Shadar-kai all have.
You'll be conveniently stashing that chain in your utility belt.
Right.
To make a new enhancement system that we can open up now, which basically takes the enhancements and instead of making them one giant list where it's hard to find things, shows almost all of them available to you right away. So what you're seeing here is there's the race enhancements on the left and the class enhancements on the right. The class enhancements are grouped so that you have some idea of which things belong where. So for instance, there's the assassin tree on the left, which is for sneaking and for hiding behind people and killing them, stabbing them in the back, or doing extra damage with daggers, for instance. The mechanic is the next one, which is really good if you want to disarm traps, or if you want to deal extra damage with your crossbow, or if you want to throw flasks of bombs at people. And the Thief Acrobat is good if you want to hit people with quarter stabs, and some other abilities that I honestly don't remember all of them right now. But
yeah, they can tumble, they're very evasive, have some, like basically like a punch, but they can get out of the way when they get too much aggro.
And so the Shadar-kai ability, the chain attack that we showed you, is one of the racial enhancements, since you are a Shadar-kai, that we can also upgrade by taking more enhancements. We can make it, instead of just dealing damage to things around you, you can make them bleed, so every time you hit them, they'll take more damage over time. And you can upgrade it to have knockdown abilities, so that you will have a chance to knock down enemies that you hit with the chain attack. Every level, you gain 4 points to spend on your enhancements, which are very much like talents. You do have to, there's a couple different groupings of enhancements, so we might as well go back in there pretty quick and drill down into this. At the very bottom, there's the list of core enhancements, and those are the things that are most iconic about that tree. For instance, the assassin, that's where you get your bonus to use to daggers, some things for doing sneak attack damage in particular. And so every single tree has something like that, including the Shadar-kai. For instance, the Shadar-kai ability to become ethereal and invisible, that smoke bomb ability for passing through enemies, that is part of their core enhancements. The other enhancements are set up in tiers where you have to sort of build up from the bottom. You need to buy a certain number of the first row before you can go to the second tier and build up all the way to the top. And this is part of the choice in making your characters. Not every character can be good at everything. So for instance, at the top tier assassin ability includes Assassinate, which is an ability that if you're sneaking and you get behind an enemy, you can actually just kill them instantly with one attack. But if you do that, then that means you're not going to get the top of the Thief Acrobat tree, which includes like a staff lunge, where you propel yourself through the air on your staff. So a lot of these abilities are brand new as part of this pass. We wanted to take this opportunity, probably maybe half of them even. Like there really are a lot of brand new abilities that have not existed before. The exact manner that you access them is not identical to the way it used to be. Some of it has been changed. The old system was more esoteric and wouldn't even fit on this tree. We actually took one of the old requirements, that the way they fed into each other, and tried to put it on a tree, and basically it was like 200 columns wide and like 20 columns high, and you would need a lot more monitors to be able to see that.
Yeah.
So the way in which you earn the points to spend is the same. At different ranks during your heroic levels 1 through 20, you'll still earn a point, and then you can go buy something. One thing that is significant, though, is your higher tiers, higher levels give you access to more points to spend in a tier. You spend more points, you unlock the next tier up. And then the cost of those specific enhancements at, say, a tier 3 or tier 4 aren't any more expensive in terms of action points than they are at the lower levels. So the cost is a lot cheaper, whereas you would advance in something that's, say, a stacking ability enhancements in the previous system, you may be spending 4, maybe 6 points on an enhancement, and they're much cheaper now as you go up the chain.
One of the other nice changes from the old system to the new system, it used to be that for the core special abilities for Assassin and Mechanic and Thief Acrobat, you could only pick one, and you were totally locked out of that prestige class, is what the traditional Dungeons & Dragons terminology, and you just couldn't get those abilities at all. Now it's possible to get some of those abilities. You still won't be able to get all of them because you just won't have enough points. But you can get some of them now, so there's a little bit more pick and choose, and I want to be fully Assassin and half Mechanic, and 1 or 2 abilities from Thief Acrobat.
Yeah, the other feature here that you can see is that within this one character who's a rogue, you have 3 class trees to choose from in this case. We've gone all the way up into the top of the one assassin tree and gotten those tier 5 or the top tier abilities, and the other ones in the other trees have turned red because you can only specialize in one tree the top tier abilities at a time. However, at any time you can reset just one tree and pay plat or shards to do so, and then you can experiment and go down a different road with your exact same character and decide I'm going to check out the thief acrobat side and go spend all my points up in that tree and see what that's like. And before you could reset your enhancements in the old system, but you had to just cache everything out and then start navigating that massive list again. Now you can do it tree by tree or reset them all.
After that, we moved on to looking at one of the other new iconic classes, the Morning Lord, which has a lot of synergy with the Cleric. It's an interesting mix between healing and defending your allies, and still being able to put out some damage. When you're going as a caster, though, you're pretty much going to be on par with the Wizard or Sorcerer as far as damage output, and as the devs said, as long as your spell points hold out, you're going to be able to keep blowing stuff up.
So if we look at some of their enhancements, we can see that in the racial tree, which is always on the left, some of their special abilities include a major self-heal, which can be upgraded to apply to allies. It's basically like a full heal that can be used very limitedly. And then they have various buffs, and then they focus on upping their light damage, and we can show you a few of those abilities now. They also...
So that's Aminator's Brilliance.
Yeah, that's the top tier racial, one of the top tier racial abilities for Morning Lords, which does extra damage to undead. They can also do an AoE buff that can be upgraded again, through the enhancement system to do a lot of beneficial effects on you and your allies at once. They can also you can make a healing cleric with the Morning Lord, and then have these light-based damage attacks to fall back on, or you could go in a more offensive-minded route and go into the new Divine Disciple tree, which is a new cleric tree that we have here to show you. John, you can talk a little more about that.
Right. So we had a lot of feedback that turns out not all clerics just want to follow people around and cast healing spells. So one of the more recent trees we made was Divine Disciple, which is an offensive caster tree. One of the features of this particular tree is that you get to choose if you're going light or dark. You can choose to be an emissary of darkness, and then you get to pick up a bunch of necromancy spells, mass inflict wounds, things that clerics are not normally very good at. They suddenly get good at, and they get some spells that are normally reserved for wizards, evil wizards, pale masters, that kind of thing. If you're a light emissary of light, as we have built here, you get similar spells for good. They get a brand new spell that's only available to Divine Disciples called Sunbolt, which we've cast a couple times. It's that twin beams of light coming out of both your hands and shooting across. And it's similar to the spell Lightning Bolt, but it's light damage, and it's only available to Divine Disciple. But we did want to make sure that there were many different options. So basically, some clerics might not take Divine Disciple at all. They might say, I just want to heal people, or I just want to hit people with my mace, or whatever weapon they like. But if you want to blow people up, that is an option for clerics.
And our last stop on this preview train was taking a look at the Purple Dragon Knight, whose synergy is with the fighter, but they do have some unique abilities that allow you to build your character in certain ways. Probably the most interesting trait that they have is they can choose to move their primary melee stat from strength to charisma. They also have many different rallying abilities that can be used to buff their allies.
So one of the interesting things, because Purple Dragon Knights can use Charisma instead of Strength as one of their primary combat stats, is that they can synergize with other classes really well. In Dungeons & Dragons Online, you can play multiple classes at once, so we have built a fighter Paladin, Sorcerer, because all of those classes appreciate having a high charisma if you're a Purple Dragon Knight. And so this is showing all the different trees. You can scroll back and forth. You choose enhancements from all seven different trees at once. And you can reorder them as well. So if you've decided you want to unset this ability because you're not going to use Kensai, but you are going to use Fire Savant, which was sitting over there, you can bring that to the left, and now it's in the order that you like it in. And so this means you can be a fighter with a sword using your charisma to do damage, but at the same time, if you want, you can put points into your sorcerer abilities and take Burning Hand so you can set things on fire. Not everyone would think that this is necessarily the best idea ever, but if you can imagine it between the different classes in DDO, you can try to build it, and our players certainly do.
Yeah, part of that's just another facet of the new enhancement system is that it lets you, gives you the visibility into these interesting character builds and goals you might have, even if you're not going to single-handedly win a raid with this character. Maybe it's going to be awesome in certain other quests, and it's going to be fun to play.
And it's going to be your character, whatever you designed. At some point we did some math to try to figure out how many different combinations of character classes you could have for a level 20 character, and it starts getting into hundreds of thousands or millions, trillions. And if you start counting the different enhancement groupings that you could do between the different trees and where you spend your points, I'm sure computers would have trouble figuring out how big that number is.
Thanks for checking out our preview of the new iconic classes and the new enhancement system in Dungeons & Dragons Online Shadowfell Conspiracy. Don't forget to check out all your favorite podcasts at MMOreporter.com, and we'll see you in-game.